Hello and welcome to the Shack News Chattycast, the podcast that's really into the cure now. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Watts.
I am your other host, Steve. As always, this show brought to you by Audible.
Your name.
Yeah, what's your name, Brian?
I'm your other host, Steve. I was like, we have two Steves?
You know, I'm rattled by today's topic, and I just forgot who I was for a moment. I'm Brian Carr, your other host.
And Steve,
I was like, my neurons were firing like 3 steps ahead of where I actually was, I think. Today's Chattycast brought to you, as always, by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Chattycast.
That's right. So every week on the Chattycast, we pick a topic, post about it on the Chatty, then we talk about it in detail with your comments. Today's guest, who is wearing appropriately black, it looks like, for the morbid occasion.
I can get my veil, too. Yeah, I can shroud myself.
Cassidy Moser.
Hey! Good morning from sunny California.
All right, so...
That's right, it's morning over there. I keep forgetting how time zones work.
It doesn't match.
I know. It's weird.
Mood. So today's topic that we're going to be talking about, partly just to mess with Brian, but also partly because it's one of those topics that we decided we'd get around to at some point when releases are slow and there's not a lot of big news going around. Death in games, how games handle death, both mechanically and narratively. We're going to get into all that a little bit later. The other half of the inspiration for that was Brian's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday,
Yay.
Brian.
Thanks. I very much enjoy that the way we're celebrating birth is implying that I'm going to die.
I mean, you are. We all are. We're all going to die, at least. Point is, yeah. The point is, Brian has now crossed the milestone of being 1 year closer to death. So we're going to talk about death to celebrate his birthday.
You ever see that?
Because I'm a good friend.
You ever see that Harry Bible Fellowship comic where a kid jumps out and he's like, "Today's my birthday," and it cuts to the Grim Reaper like moving another thing on the abacus?
Yes, yeah. That's what I'm saying is happening with your birthday here.
I feel like that a lot lately.
So before we get to that macabre topic, let's talk about what we're playing now. And Cass, what are you playing lately?
So I actually went downtown yesterday to a press demo with Devolver Digital, which is always fun.
Ooh.
Yeah, I went and I saw Oakloft.
Fork Parker?
No.
Oh.
I've never
I hear
met
he's
him,
not actually real.
I don't know. It's always Karen Joe is the PR person I always end up working with.
Sure.
No, I went out to see Oakloft and Mother Russia Bleeds, and they were both very cool, and they both could not have been more different.
I love the names of these games. They're just they're so different.
Well, that's Devolver. Oh, for sure. So Oakloft is weird. It's a twin stick. It's not even a shooter. So basically, Oakloft is about a angry mob in ancient Greece who wants to take down the gods because they're sick of the gods lording over them. So you play as a philosopher. Yeah, pretty much. So I played as Plato yesterday, and so you take over this philosopher who directs this crowd, and you slowly just amass more and more people as you go through different cities, and you're destroying things, you're destroying buildings and trees, and you're taking out guards and enemies, and
so is
the more
you is it Katamari Damacy-ish?
I mean,
as you're like building a bigger and thing that swallows up,
Yeah, in the sense, in that sense, I guess you could say that. There are different units that you pick up, and like different units have stats and abilities that will be useful to you, whether it's being able to carry items or having certain boosts or allowing your philosopher to do different things, and like there's a lot going on in it, and it's really interesting. So basically, it's a twin stick thing. So you're controlling your philosopher with one thumb, and then you're kind of directing the mob with the other. You use the right trigger to tell them when to attack things, and you use the buttons to use different items if they're carrying them. And the more the mob destroys things, the more riled up they get, and the angrier they get, the more stuff they can destroy. And every stage ends with you fighting and eventually killing a Greek god. It's really cool. It's interesting.
So, what does the roster look like? You mentioned Plato as like are there Aristotle and other guys like that too?
Oh yeah, they
Okay.
have everybody.
Nice.
It's got a really quirky sense of humor too, which of course it does. It's a Devolver game. Like anytime they cut to the menus when you would stop at the store, it would have like smooth jazz playing. And they told me they had Kenny G in there before they had their person, their composer come through before. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's mixing together things like a roguelike, and it's mixing together twin stick shooters with brawlers with strategy games, and it's very different.
It's this game about populism leading way to riots, which
yeah,
I feel like in a weird way is kind of apropos.
It's oddly topical.
Donald Trump DLC coming any day now.
They actually did have like all the different philosophers have different descriptions and stuff, which I found really cute. And Oedipus has said, he gave, I forget which bonus he gave your riot, but he makes all family outings really uncomfortable. It was stuff like that. Yeah, and they have like a couple like anachronistic sort of things that they've thrown in there too. Like Einstein was in there too as a philosopher, and like it's kind of weird. It's kind of hard to explain without showing it. I'm writing a preview for it today.
Yeah, I have an image in my head of what it looks like, and it might be like nothing like what it actually is, but it sounds interesting.
I had no idea what I was seeing for like the first 10 minutes of the demo, to be honest. And like I had the dev like sitting there explaining it to me, and I was just like, okay.
Any follow-up questions? You're like, yes. What is it?
Like, yeah.
What are you doing?
Yes, but tell me what I do in this game. No, it was cute. It was fun. They made it to be replayable, so it's kind of a roguelike in that sense. It's got procedural generation and stuff, but it uses it very smartly. So Close is pretty cool. It's coming out like this month. Like it's out really soon.
All right.
I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah, for sure. And then Mother Russia Bleeds. That's a game. I tell you what. Mother Russia Bleeds is like a nightmarish, super violent, hyper crazy propaganda Cold War brawler style Double Dragon game. So if you, it's pretty great. It's pretty great. So you play as these. I think there's 4 or 5 different characters that you can select. It's a co-op game. It's a co-op brawler, and it has online and couch co-op, which I thought was really cool. You take a character. So I played as Natasha, who was like, it's really, the art style of it is very striking. Okay, it's pixelated because it's a Devolver game, but all of the characters look absolutely deranged, and they have these different animations that just hits that, it just drives that home even more so. Like, there's one guy that has a beard, and he's always just kind of, like, hunched over, and he's got this weird, wicked grin on his face, and, like, one guy's, like, missing an eyeball, and he's all bandaged up, and, like, they're in this medical facility that they're trying to break out of. That's kind of the whole thing, right? Like, there's this weird underground experimenting going on, and it's all this, again, kind of weird, like, Cold War propaganda-ish feel to it. And it's just disgusting. Like, your characters, like, are vomiting all the time. One of the main hooks of the game is that you choose a drug at the very beginning that you're going to use to either heal yourself or berserk yourself, right? And the way that you accumulate more of this drug is after you kill an enemy, you walk up to it with your syringe and you suck their blood out because they still have the blood or the drug in their bloodstream. So like, and it's just the most disgusting like
That's
sort
how
of
drugs
like
work.
sound effect. Oh god, it's a lot like, if you've ever seen the movie Limitless, there's a part where Bradley Cooper starts licking up this man's blood because he has the NZT drug still in it. That movie is a problem. Anyway, but yeah, it's kind of like that.
I have not seen
there's
Limitless,
also,
and now I won't because that sounds terrible.
that's a different conversation for another time. Yeah, no, it's really fun though. Like it's a brawler. Like you can pick up weapons, you fight enemies. It looks very much like a Double Dragon Scott Pilgrim type game. You can have up to 4 players with you. My favorite part was the taunts. You can taunt enemies, and it will actually like interrupt their attacks and their movement and stuff. And like Natasha's is that she cracks a beer, downs it, and then just throws the can. The one that was particularly notable was that the one guy, the same deranged guy, right? He like shits in his hand and throws it, like just straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
it's something else, that game. But yeah, it's cool though. It's fun.
All right.
So
Some weird shit.
I don't. I don't know what to think of any of that. Because you had me at like hyper violent Double Dragon Cold War. And then it took a turn.
I think neither of us are going to top that. I don't know.
It's kind of like if Doom decided to hang out with a less douchey Duke Nukem, and they were like, yo, let's make a brawler. That's kind of how it comes across. I don't know. I liked it. It was cool.
All right.
Obviously not for everybody. Otherwise, Overwatch. I've been playing more Overwatch. And I got play of the game twice with Diva last week.
Nice.
And it was one of the proudest moments of my life. It was pretty great.
It always feels good when that thing pops and it's your name on the.
Is
on the
Diva
highlight.
your main?
No, I don't know if I have a main. I try to have one from each category that I'm okay with.
I got a.
So,
I opened some of those Olympic boxes yesterday, and I got a.
oh yeah.
I got a highlight intro from Junkrat. And I love the intro, but I'm never gonna get it because I never played Junkrat. But I'm like, sure, equip this.
Which intro was it?
It's the Olympic highlight intro where he throws a shot put, and he's really straining and putting everything into it, and then he kind of falls on his face, and he sees that the shot put has landed like right next to his face.
That's
so
pretty good.
He didn't get any distance at all.
There's another one where he like throws something and then like he hits himself in the crotch. I don't know. Like Junkrat's got some pretty good intros.
So I was a little bit like, oh, that's really funny and I like it, but I'm never gonna see it in practice. Yeah.
I also, slightly off topic, this morning I am seriously considering deleting Pokemon Go off of my phone.
End of an era.
Yeah, end of a 2-week era.
What a 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. A friend of mine was talking about it
off
yesterday.
Of you? You're just like, okay, I'm over it now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. A friend of mine was talking about it on Facebook yesterday, and he's like, finally deleted Pokemon Go. And the more I was thinking about it, I'm like, that's a really good idea.
I should do that. Yeah, I mean, like
I've spent more money on that game than I have any other free-to-play game in my life.
Yeah.
And like I don't feel bad about it because I enjoyed it, but I'm not getting anything out of it anymore. I don't think.
Here's how I feel Pokemon Go. I mean, like, I'm gonna tell everyone like just play it like I play it. But here's the way that I play it, and the way that I feel like is most fulfilling to play it. Like, don't think about it a lot. Like when I'm out somewhere and waiting to be seated at a restaurant, I'll be like, oh, I'll see if there's any Pokemon here. And then I pull it out, and I'm like, oh, hey, look, it's a Pidgey. And then I grab a Pidgey, and then I go eat. You know, like, I feel like the people that are like, I'm just going to go for a 3-hour walk and catch a bunch of Pokemon. It's like, you are going to burn out on this thing fast. It's meant to be sort of like a weird side thing that you do every once in a while.
Sure, and that's how I've mostly been doing it. Here's the thing that I feel kind of weird about is, especially ever since this update that they did, which has been highly controversial for good reason. I feel like I don't get decent Pokemon that show up anymore. Like, it's just, I don't know, like, it just feels, Like, I want, maybe I'll delete it and come back to it in 6 months. See if they've done anything
substantial. See if they've fixed it by then,
yeah. Yeah, you know.
That's not a bad approach, I think. Because they are promising updates, but you don't want to be like, waiting with bated breath for the update or anything.
Yeah,
they have promised updates, but they're also really bad about listening to fan feedback because they just don't give a shit. So
this thing's making money no matter what we do. So
pretty much.
We couldn't hear you from underneath the Scrooge McDuck vault of money that we're swimming in.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much been my week.
All right. Brian,
Yeah.
what are you playing? Are you also playing Overwatch?
We can talk about Overwatch for a second. I actually went 24 hours without my PC. Luckily, that's all I had to do. I had to get like the power, because I play on a laptop, which I'm sure some of the Shack News folks are like, you play on a laptop? But
You're not a real gamer.
it's just for my lifestyle, for how I have my house set up, a laptop makes more sense. And so the power jack had some issues. I had to get it fixed. So it kind of cut into my Overwatch time, but I did play some more Overwatch with the Olympic update, and this is a really cool thing. I'm really excited about the idea that they're going to do a bunch of events or a bunch of things tied into different events. Like, I'm excited to see Overwatch at Halloween, Overwatch at Christmas. I really want to see, like, if they do some stuff with BlizzCon. Like, I'm really hoping at some point we get some like alternate costumes and skins that are based on other Blizzard games. Like if you have Reinhardt look like Arthas or something like that, that'd be really cool. But you know, I put $10 into it because I'm an Overwatch sucker, and I will just I'm happy to give them money. Maybe too happy.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, though. Honestly, like if you enjoy something and you feel like giving it money and supporting it,
I agree.
I've spent entirely too much money on Hearthstone over the years.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
you're like, I spend a lot of my time playing this thing. I'm okay with supporting it.
And the thing is, with Overwatch, they're giving you free heroes, they're giving you free maps, they're not charging for any of that stuff. $10 for costumes is fine. I got skins for Diva, Zarya, and Lucio, sorry, I'm not sure what I was trying to do there. And Lucio, okay, whatever. He's not that great, but Zarya looks cool. Diva looks really cool. I like the.
Did you get the? Was it the Olympic skin for Zarya?
Yes.
The cool wrestling thing.
I got the red version of the weightlifter skin.
Oh, okay, cool.
Or well, technically it's called the weightlifter, but anyway, the red version of whatever. It's got Russia, makes sense. And I got Diva's like a Team Korea one. I was really hoping to get McCree because McCree is literally just wearing the American flag.
It's so great.
And I was also hoping to get Tracers because I think the idea of making her like a track runner is a really brilliant idea. But,
Tracers is cool.
Yeah, so like there's a good chance I'm going to get some more of these at some point.
I was a little disappointed there was no like real Farah one because Farah's my.
I'm not sure what you do with her though.
Farah's my girl, and I was like, I wanted like Egyptian colors on her armor or something. I don't know.
Well, they could have done they have the sprays, and they have one of them is Soldier 76 playing golf, and having like Soldier 76, dad it up.
That'd be great.
Golf polo would have been fun.
I'd buy more packs for that. I would.
Because I have actually. So in terms of the actual game, I actually have been playing Soldier 76 a lot lately. And if you recall, he was a character I was not too fond of because he literally just looks like they took the worst parts of '90s superhero comics and threw them together in one character.
But then that cartoon came out and turned you around.
The cartoon helped, and then the internet turning him into the dad. Like so here's my thing on the Overwatch fandom. There are some really gross and weird parts of it, but
oh my gosh, yes.
The mainstream part of it, like where Diva is a gremlin, Soldier 76 is dad. That stuff I find
the goofy cutesy
I find it incredibly endearing. And so like they turned me around on Soldier 76 just because of that. So when I play him, I'm like, oh, I'm dad. I get to be the dad.
Soldier 76 is the Tim Kaine of.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like. Or is Tim Kaine the Soldier 76?
It could go either way. But I think the one who really exists is probably the Prime.
But yeah, he's actually really fun to play, and I find him really useful in a lot of different situations. So that's one thing I appreciate as I go on in Overwatch. Like I'm finding characters that I never really gave a second thought to. I go in, I experiment with them, like, hey, I'm actually having fun with this character. I'll add them to the rotation, or I'll add them to the repertoire, depending on the situation. I mean, like, I've said it on here. This is Game of the Year. It's not close for me. There's like nothing has been better than Overwatch, and I don't think anything's going to be. It's
a game that I want to spend more time with, and that I feel just like this obligation to plug through my backlog, but.
Yeah.
With the Olympic thing, I was like, okay, this is a limited time thing. I don't even know if I'm going to get a chance to play the game during this 2-week period because I have other things to play.
Mm-hmm.
I have backlog. I have review games, So I'm just like, I'm just gonna buy some packs because I don't want to like miss out completely on getting some skins. And I got some good ones. So
yeah.
I'm like, all right, I might not ever play with any of these until after the event is over, but it's cool to have.
But you have them.
Yeah.
it's a game for me. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Some people I played 80 hours this the first week it came out and I'm burned out. Well, of course you are. This is not a game that you spend your entire life playing. It's a game that you keep coming back to throughout the year. Then also PC related, I restarted my XCOM campaign. I'm doing better now, but I still have hit the wall where I don't know what I'm possibly going to be able to do now. Because there's not so much a difficulty curve in this game as it is literally a brick wall that you run
a right
into.
angle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just perpendicular to the plane. Because you'll be going okay, I've got this under control, I've got good weapons, I've got my armor on point, all this stuff, and then we're gonna put out a unit that you have to fight against that has 6 units of armor, meaning that anything you do to it is reduced by 6. And it can fire a blast that will do area of effect damage of 6 or 7 points, which is pretty lethal still at this point where I'm at. And not only that, if it kills somebody with it, it will reanimate them as a zombie and they will come after you. By the way,
didn't the chrysalids do that in the old game?
Well, yeah, the chrysalids do that, and now this new thing, I forget what it's called, does it. It's like this giant floating orb. But the chrysalids are back in this game, and they're just horrible. They're vicious. That same mission, they also sent 20 chrysalids after you, and they're so it was like Starship Troopers, right? So I've got my poor XCOM guys. They're just trying to handle this. My one I have one of my Rangers has an ability where if a guy another unit comes within her range, she gets a free swing with her sword, and so the Ranger class is a really cool new addition because it actually has melee focus. And so she was killed 5 or 6 of them by herself, but still it was obscene. And that's probably one of the easier missions going forward. So I'm not sure if I'm ever going to finish this game. I might have to start a third time and put it on easy mode and cheat to actually see the ending of XCOM 2.
The more you talk about this, the more it sounds like it's some sort of Last Starfighter government tool to find someone who can actually fend off an alien invasion.
Probably. It would explain so much. And the last one I want to talk about real quick, I did finish Kirby Planet Robobot, and I think you mentioned on here the ending is pretty amazing, and I won't spoil it, but it is pretty amazing. Easily the best Kirby ending ever, and maybe one of the best endings in a Nintendo game ever. Just where it goes and what they do, I'm like, this is so stupid. This is so good. This is a thing I didn't know I wanted until now, and now it's all I can think about. So
yeah, it's pretty great.
I think Triple Deluxe is a better game overall. Certainly, the bonus games that come with Triple Deluxe are better than the ones that came with Robobot. But this is still a very good game if you like Kirby or just.
I sort of like their weird little. I didn't mention this much in the review, but I sort of like their weird little. 4-player RPG thing.
Yeah, it's all right.
They could do more with that.
Yeah, I think if they fleshed it out, it might be different. But I don't know. I played it I finished the 3D Rumble thing or whatever. I'm like, okay, this is cute. I'm done with it. And so yeah, which I also picked up Battleborn because it was $20, and I played the prologue and
All right, yeah. I mean, that's $20 you could have spent on Overwatch loot boxes.
In retrospect, had I in complete honesty, had I known when I picked it up that there were going to be Olympic skins for Overwatch, I would have just gotten $20 of Battle.net money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, Battleborn.
Please consider the source. I am literally wearing a Heroes of the Storm T-shirt right now.
I haven't revisited Battleborn, and maybe it's. I remember there being 1 or 2 missions near the end that I would just get matched into a group trying those missions, and we would just lose every single time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is broken.
It's got some cool. I like some of the dialogue and the character designs are okay. None of them are as good as Overwatch. Let's just get that out of the way right now. Overwatch has the best character designs I've seen in the game.
Marquee comes closest.
Yeah. But there are some good ones, and the animated intro was cool. I like the kind of heavy metal sort of 80s cartoon look to it. But I don't know. I'll keep trying it out. But it was $20, so
we'll hear what you have to say after you've had some.
Yeah, because I felt like I had to weigh in on the Battleborn versus Overwatch thing, and so far it's not a contest.
Which is, it's kind of unfair to Battleborn.
No, it's so different.
Also, I feel like Blizzard I mean, like, we need to get to the actual topic and stuff, but I feel like Blizzard was, like, really just screwing with a Gearbox, right? Because, like, every time Gearbox was like, we're going to have a beta weekend, and Blizzard's like, we're going to have a beta weekend. Fuck you. Like,
well, it's kind of appropriate
we're going to have power programming to your plans here.
It's it's kind of appropriate that we talk about Battleborn when we talk about death, because I don't know if you've seen the...
Yeah, how long is it really going to stick around?
I don't know if you've seen the price drops lately, but...
So I'm gonna mention just one game that I've been playing real quick. It's part of the backlog. I don't know how long I'm gonna stick with it, but I've still been sticking with Just Cause 3, which feels very familiar to Just Cause, which is why I might burn out on it, because I've already blown up a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I feel like I've kind of done what I wanted to do with this game. But here's how little I cared about the story of that game. I went straight into, okay, there's a bunch of bases to destroy. I'm just going to go looking for bases and destroy them. I eventually circled back around to doing story missions, because I was like, oh yeah, I guess I should do those. And last night, I unlocked fast travel, which is probably like one of the first things that you're supposed to do. But this time, I've been like, oh, the base that I want to destroy is way over there. I need to hijack a helicopter or something to get there, because it's way too far away. And now I'm like, oh, well, I should have at least made it to fast travel before I started just kind of paragliding everywhere and destroying stuff. So I'll see if that makes it go down a little smoother now that I'm not, necessarily having to slow travel everywhere.
I love that term, slow travel.
Slow travel. Slow travel in this case being grappling yourself towards the ground and then hitting your parachute over and over again.
Right.
Although they do add the wingsuit now, so if you have some significant height, that's actually a much faster way, and you can sort of switch between them. So yeah, it's fun in the same ways that Just Cause 2 was fun. But that's kind of it. I do think it's funny how self-aware the cutscenes are. One of the cutscenes last night had the commandant or whatever, the dictator of this little republic, saying like, we will destroy them. We will deliver like harsh punishment for every action, and then the rebellion will be quashed, just like every rebellion in history. It was a little like fun self-aware winking moment.
That's good.
Anyway, so let's move on to the big topic. This week saw the advent of Dr. Games' birthday, marking another full year of careening towards his inevitable grim reward.
Thanks.
I had fun writing this. I was trying to come up with different ways to say it.
So here's the thing. You come alive when you talk about my death. Have you noticed this? You reach into a creative well.
I may or may not have a journal.
You reach into a creative well that is untapped in maybe any other aspect of what you do.
To mark the occasion in the most macabre way possible, we thought we'd spend some time talking about the icy embrace of death, which Brian is now...
It's like a weird version of Dorian Gray, where he talks about your death and gets younger.
Which Brian is now one step closer to. So, specifically, we are going to talk about how video games handle death, as both game mechanic and story element. So I've got three sort of key questions here. One, is death an outdated notion from the quarter-munching days, or is it still a valuable tool for negative feedback? Two, story-wise, what deaths in video game stories are most memorable to you? And three, sort of mixing those two, I guess, sides of video game death. Does the existence and constancy of death as a game mechanic undermine the narrative impact when it happens for story purposes? The example that I was thinking of when I wrote that question was, I don't know what happens in Uncharted 4, so if you do, don't spoil it for me. But I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, when Nate died in Uncharted 4, and people would be like, spoilers, spoilers, and they're like, no, I'm talking like, you die a lot, like in the game, So it seems like there's a weird, a weird crossover there that is not always clear when it's story related. Or the other example that everyone always cites is Eris in Final Fantasy VII. It's like, why can't we use a Phoenix Down? Characters die in this game all the time, and it's not a big deal.
There is a canonical explanation for this, by the way.
Oh God. Anyway, so that's the gist. So we can sort of tackle these one at a time. Is death still a useful game mechanic, or do game designers need to come up with some new way of punishing you to get across negative feedback, or is it still like the best way?
So it's an interesting question.
Yeah, I just want to point out real quick though. when you use a Phoenix Down, you're not reviving someone from being dead. They are unconscious, and you were reviving them.
They're almost dead.
It's more like
they're mostly
smelling
dead, in the words of Princess Bride. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, please continue. I'm sorry.
Yes.
You're fine. So, I mean, I think if you think about it, like, death is probably universally something that human beings see as a negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is the ending. There is no more continuing after this point. So, I think it goes beyond quarter munching. I think it just sort of serves as the ultimate failure.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I have actually been wondering this about violence as well. Now, don't get me wrong. I love to crush skulls and I love to murder things in games. It's great. But, you know, does every game need to have a violent element to it? No. And we're starting to see more and more of that, and it makes things different, and it gives us a chance to explore things in a new way. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a definitive answer to it. I do think that in terms of a game like Uncharted, it is kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know, because
again,
that's
you just
one of
respawn
those...
at the latest checkpoint, and then you do the jump right that time. You know, like that's all it really is.
Right, and it's, you know, and like I don't know what you do to fix that though, but like Uncharted has
Prince
a lot of issues for me.
Like as I said, it occurred to me like Prince of Persia addressed this exact thing head on.
Sure.
And thought, wait a minute, what if we make the fact that you just kind of rewind back to the latest checkpoint a game mechanic? That's kind of brilliant.
Yeah, I think if you look at roguelikes, like I think they're sort of the next evolution in this thing where they punish you for death beyond just having to restart a section. You have to restart everything.
Yeah.
And
it kind of adds additional
stakes. You lose all your monies, and you have to go find them from your previous corpse or whatever. I think on the other wild swing, like the total other end of the spectrum, Nintendo caused a big controversy in quotes when they did this, but like when Nintendo back in the Wii days started having like, okay, we were putting in like a no fail mode in this Mario game or this Kirby game, where like if you're a little kid or if you're a parent playing with their kid or whatever, you can just turn this thing on and you just can't die. Like if you fall into a pit, you get picked up out of the pit, whatever, you're fine. And for some reason that was like seen as like controversial, like, oh, you're compromising the integrity of the blah blah blah. But it's like, I think their attitude was like, look, all that's happening in this is you get killed, you go back to the beginning of the stage, and we give you infinite lives. It's not like that matters anymore. Like the concept of lives, as part of the whole death mechanic is a thing from the quarter munching arcade days. Like it definitely is. That's where it started. So Nintendo was sort of like, why are we still doing that? That's kind of pointless.
Yeah, and I think the more that storytelling starts to improve in games, I think the less we'll see of just your standard, like, oh, you died, gotta go back to your checkpoint. Because the better that storytelling gets, the more opportunities you have to kind of give the player different fail states. So, like, whether it's losing a character... like, I'll tell you, the ending of Mass Effect 2 sticks with me way more than any time I've ever just died in Mass Effect 2, because if I didn't do everything correctly, I lost so many crew members in the final mission.
That was a brutal last mission.
Like, watching
just dropping
them,
like flies.
And, like, watching them literally melt alive, like, it was just horrifying. And but I cared about those characters, and so that's why. And so that failure stuck with me more than anything else did.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I kind of have to wonder that, too.
Yeah. So, Brian, before we move on to the next sort of question in this trio of questions, do you have thoughts on death as a game mechanic?
Well, you hit on something interesting there, Cassidy, and that's the idea that for some games, the penalty is not necessarily that you die, it's that people you care about die. Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is partially why Fire Emblem works, right? Like, you have a vested interest in these characters, and you have an interest in keeping them alive the same way you would want to keep, like, members of your family or your friends alive if it were up to you.
I think XCOM does this too.
And they thread through these romantic relationships with the characters in Fire Emblem that it's like, I want to see how that story finishes.
Right.
Now, see, XCOM doesn't do that, but you do get you certainly get attached. Now, I don't think XCOM does it as well because the characters are really kind of, apart from like some textual information in their biography, not really well fleshed out because
it's more that you spend time building them up than it is getting a relationship.
And you have stories you can tell about the time this unit did this or something like that.
Sure.
So so there's definitely that, but that to me, I think, is kind of more effective because like just treating death like a failure state is, I mean, that's one way to certainly, because games have rules and that's why they work, right? And so within the rules, if you do this, you don't get the desired outcome. So so death's a really easy way to make that work. But in most games, death is just kind of a temporary setback, right? Like Overwatch, you get killed, you're just out for. It's like a penalty. Like it's like you're playing hockey. You check somebody into the boards. You're not supposed to. They put you in the bench. They put you on the bench for like 2 minutes, and you're back in the game, right? It's basically means nothing. So, and a lot of games are like that. It's just reload, do the thing over again. But I think like there's something to that idea of actually making it have resonance beyond just I failed, I don't get to go to this next checkpoint. There's for example Superman Returns, right? Superman Returns is not a very good video game, but it got very close to getting one thing very right, not just for Superman, but in general, that your success or failure, your life meter is the people of Metropolis, right? And if the more they die or get hurt, that's what kills Superman. It's because he's fundamentally unkillable, right? So that to me is kind of interesting. So you have a sort of
games you're playing Superman-like characters, even if they aren't literally invincible. You're playing characters that are essentially meant to be the same kind of invincible. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're sworn to protect. Like that works well for that character, and it's one of the things that game did so right. It just did everything else wrong. But for
example, being based on Superman Returns.
Well, that's a whole other discussion. But like Telltale's Walking Dead games, right? Death is a part of those games by definition, and there are instances where a character has to die no matter what, right? But there are instances where your actions can prevent somebody you care about from dying, and if
you have to make a choice. Most of the time, it's not this binary and clear. But sometimes you make a choice that you're like, this is going to lead to somebody dying. I don't know exactly how it's going to shake out.
And it gives
but it's clearly like presenting me a signpost where it's like, if you go this way, something bad is going to happen, and if you go this way, a different bad thing is going to happen.
And so like. It's this weird extension of the sort of player empowerment. Like a lot of video games make you feel like God, right? And what is more godlike than deciding who lives and who dies through your actions, right? So death is almost not so much it's kind of like another manifestation of that. And I'm not quite sure I'm smart enough to get into psychologically what that means, but when you play a game like Walking Dead, like I made this choice and now this other person suffers because of what I did. Right, and that's to me a more meaningful way to deal with death as a penalty than just simply saying, "Okay, hey, you got to start over." Okay,
it sounds like this is tying neatly into our other question of what deaths in video game stories are memorable.
Okay, because I've got one from The Walking Dead for this that's a spoiler, and I'm still angry.
I feel like we're past the I don't know.
Yeah, because season 3
how long did Walking Dead season 2 come out?
It was lucky.
We're fine. Just spoil it.
It was over a year.
We're past the
get over it.
Yeah.
So just be prepared for spoilers in this part.
Yeah. And a little bit later.
Okay.
Brian.
So memorable deaths. Okay. The obvious one is Aerith from Final Fantasy VII, but who cares?
It's pronounced Aerith.
No, it doesn't matter. No. So like. I don't know. She's a character that was she's basically the manic pixie dream girl of Japanese role playing games, and to me she was never terribly interesting. Like it sucks that she died, but people are like, I cried when she died. I'm like, why? Like you don't know anything about her. Like she's in the game for like 10 hours and then she's
just
dead.
Like the kind of nice girl that you met.
Yeah, I'm a Tifa fan until I die, but
Tifa for life.
To me, she's a much more interesting character. But the other thing, that since we're talking about The Walking Dead, I am still to this day furious at Telltale games, and the reason for that is back when I played the first season of Walking Dead, I was bros with Kenny, right? Kenny and I ride till he die. He came to help me.
He literally, when we were chatting about Walking Dead, he would literally say, "We ride till we die."
We'd ride till we die. And so when he died, or it looked like he died in the first season, I was heartbroken. But when he came back, I'm like, "Oh my God, it's Kenny!" And then
they didn't kill Kenny. That's the only time I'll make a South Park joke on here.
Nicely done, though.
That was very well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
So then, so they pulled this off, and you're like, wow, this is really cool. But they also show like him deteriorating, like he's clearly gone through. I mean, he's gone through maybe more than anybody else in that series.
Yeah, I mean,
his
he
wife,
watched his son become a
kid,
zombie.
and then the new family he adopts dies too.
I was okay with that. I hated his kid, man.
Duck.
Anyway.
Duck was terrible until you did that scene where like he's running around with you, helping you solve mysteries at the camp.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
He's like the Robin to your
That was
Batman.
like cute and endearing in a way. Anyway.
And they only did it to make it feel like more of a gut punch when they killed him, which is what The Walking Dead does. I have a lot of issues with The Walking Dead as a franchise, not so much with the game, but as a franchise.
Yeah.
So in the end of season 2, you're given the choice. Like, here's Kenny, clearly going off the deep end, and he thinks that this lady that you've been hanging around with has killed this kid, or something like that. And so like they're going back and forth, and you have the choice of who to shoot. And the game's made it clear like Kenny is so far gone. Like he needs this. And so like with a heavy heart, I pulled the trigger and killed Kenny, only to find out that by the way, the baby's alive, and you killed Kenny for nothing. I was furious.
Yeah, I remember you were inconsolable.
That was the only time I almost I have a very strict no reloading saves policy, but I almost broke it because I thought that was such a cheap trick to play.
It was. I mean, like, but that was also sort of the point, is that the character who played the trick was lying.
I left
to
her high and dry. I was so angry. Like I took
she
the kid.
She was lying to you. So I think I killed Kenny, and then I also left her. Because I was like, well, fuck you.
That's what I did. I'm like, no, you made me do that. You stay here and get eaten. I do not care.
So any other deaths? I have some that I cannot actually mention because of reasons that will become clear. But yeah, Cass, do you have any other memorable deaths, or Brian, any others besides?
I've got another one, but I'm going to let Cassidy go first because she might have it. Actually, so
I'll tell you. There's a character in The Last of Us that I feel often gets overlooked unjustly, and that's Tess, who is Joel's.
Oh yeah. I didn't love The Last of Us, but I'm remembering that vaguely.
Oh, I like The Last of Us a lot, but she. So the reason I say that she's underrated is because she's actually such a cool character, and she's so layered and very dimensional, and we barely hear about her because she's not around the game for very long. She's only in it for a few hours. And she does the typical sacrifice myself to save you thing. But the thing that I remember being particularly striking about that was that she, at one point, like, her thing, the reason that she killed herself is because she saw it as a way, well, she didn't kill herself, but the reason that she threw herself into the fray to save Joel and Ellie was because she saw it as her way of making amends for leading a really awful life. And she says it in that moment when Joel's trying to get her to come with them, and she's like, you need to take Ellie and you need to go do this thing. And she basically yells at him. She's like, we're shitty people, Joel. Like, we're terrible people. And
then the rest of the game bears that out in Joel's case.
Oh my gosh, I know. It was a death that I felt was really well done because it was a moment of redemption for her character. And, again, in like that ultimate sort of way. So that tends to be one that I think about a lot when it comes to deaths in video games.
Yeah.
Last of Us handles death well as a concept, I think. I have issues with it as a game, but in terms of like thematics and narrative, it's got some really strong elements to it. And I think was it Bill, the one guy that helps you get the car running?
Yeah.
I felt bad for him too, especially when you kind of like dig into his backstory a little bit.
Yeah, you find out he was in love with this guy that didn't reciprocate, and things got really ugly. Yeah, it is.
But I don't know if you had this one, Cassidy. I don't know if you had this one planned for something later, Steve. But there is a character in Mass Effect, and
I think I probably know who you're talking about. Even though really every character can die in Mass Effect.
but it's a very specific. I don't know if you picked it or not, but Morden was probably the single biggest gut punch in that series. Thane too, because I was I romanced Thane in the second game. But Morden, just his last words, someone else would have gotten it wrong. Just
yeah.
I need a
I mean,
moment.
Did you ever get? Yeah.
that was also
Did you
a
ever get the
redemptive
part
act
where?
because he was. I mean, his whole refresh my memory if I'm misremembering here, but he had developed the genophage that basically
Yep.
just, ravaged this whole civilization. And like as the series went on, and a lot more than in other series that don't have as many games or games that are as long, you saw him having a moral conflict with that, like thinking like, well, scientifically it was the right thing to do. There was this threat, we had to take care of it, but also, morally, I'm seeing how it's destroying the civilization and stuff. So at the end, when his death is also the redemptive act of, he's trying to fix it, and so the line that you quoted that he had earlier said, I'm the one that had to develop the genophage because if it had been off by a hair, it could have done something way worse. When he's trying to fix it, he basically says, I have to be the one to do this because I'm the only one that can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's a great redemptive moment. It goes down in history as one of those.
I mean, if we're talking about like the great Mass Effect characters, I think he's top of the list. Personally, I don't know how you guys feel, but he's
I
by
agree
far
for
the one
that
I was.
moment alone. Honestly, like it's a remarkable moment.
Yeah. So anything else on anyone's minds? I feel like there are probably deaths that are slipping my mind right now, but I'm only remembering like the big marquee ones,
Trying to think.
Yeah, because I know there are others that were pretty devastating.
I mean, there's Sarah's in The Last of Us, the first girl. It was sad, but to me, I mean, she barely got really built up as a character, so I wasn't terribly attached to her. But
here's an interesting one. What about Andrew Ryan in BioShock? Like that to me was.
Oh, that's a good one. Like that's a different one. That it's not sad and redemptive.
Yeah,
but it's brutal in a way that illustrates the point of that game.
And it ties into something I think that question of like giving you godlike power, right? Like literally, like you have the power, like you have no control over it, right? You just kill Andrew Ryan, your dad, and that to me is just like that was like still the moment. I when I teach classes about video games, I talk about narrative and how we can like use interactivity or take interactivity away to really emphasize it. That's the scene I show, and basically saying like you have no control over anything that's happening right now, and that's the point. And so it is kind of like this thing, like we almost feel powerless in the face of death, but this is a guy willing to kill himself, like literally like hand this guy a murder weapon to kill him to make a point. And that to me, like that's a death that really punctuates, like you said, the thematic aspect of the game. Like what is choice and do you actually have it? Because the whole game, like, is just an arrow pointing you to go kill Andrew Ryan, and you do it, and you do not feel fulfilled. Like,
and then it keeps going afterwards.
Yeah.
I think that's a thematic tie-in as well.
When I first played through that game, my then girlfriend, now wife, and I were just furious at Atlas because like she was just like, I can't believe that he turned on you like that.
Spoilers for BioShock, everyone.
If you haven't played BioShock by now, there's something wrong with you. I mean,
yeah, for real.
All right, we can move on to newsy bits, which actually the newsy bit that I have written down. We've already covered, so we might just skip to the game. But first, let's talk sponsors. Brian?
Yeah, that's right. Steve and Cassidy. I want to tell you guys something. Audible, the audiobook company owned by Amazon.
Heard
what about them?
Yeah. They're offering you,
all right.
both of you. But guess what? Not just both of you. Everybody listening. Everybody within earshot. My neighbors, if they could hear this. They're offering a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial to check out their service. You can download audiobooks, tons of them, books on games and tech and basket weaving and
death,
I don't know,
probably.
Death. I guarantee you, I could type it right now. I bet you there is a book on death in there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Hundreds of topics, and you can just check them out right now for free. All you got to do is go to audibletrial.com/chattycast. That's CHATTYCAST. And you can start your free trial and get your free book today. So many great books. And, we don't read enough as a society, so I figure the best way to handle that is rather than read books, have someone read them to you. So you're at least halfway there.
It's how you're already doing it. You got a podcasty device, same thing. So the newsy bit that I had written down was Overwatch celebrates the Olympic Games with special loot boxes, we've kind of already talked about that. We can kind of skip it unless there are any more thoughts. I'm totally with you, Brian. That I'm glad they're doing this events-based thing.
I look forward
That's
to
going to be the
dropping
kind of
money
thing that
on
pulls
Christmas.
me back in long term, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I don't have a lot of thoughts on it. I got some cool skins. I got Mercy's skin, which was really the only one I cared about.
Yeah, you got the Swiss skin, which I actually I'm pretty deep
What,
into
the
Overwatch.
Torbjorn?
He's Swedish.
Oh,
I didn't know Mercy was Swiss.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty deep into the lore.
Yeah,
but
come on.
I miss
using
that.
the Swiss and the Swedes again.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're very different. For example,
they're like practically neighbors. Who knows? Anyway,
Sweden, for example, has a much richer tradition of chefs. Okay.
yeah.
The American public school education system.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move on to Beat the Doc. Today's game is called Famous Last Words. I'm going to quote one of the last things a video game character said before they died. It's not always the exact last words, because sometimes there's a, dialogue that would give it away, or a death grunt. But you just have to name the character. Get a point.
Pantomime death grunt.
Yeah, death grunt. So for an example, had to be me. Someone else might have gotten it wrong. I have written down. You would buzz in with your name and say...
Morden.
I can't believe it took you that long.
No, I knew.
Oh, I didn't know we were starting. You got.
That was an example. But
I was doing a bit, and
Brian was like, anyway.
I was waiting for Steve to yes and he didn't.
Some of these will be
Ruining the first
obvious,
rule of improv.
and some of these will be more obvious as it goes on. So, kill me now. Do it. There's only room for one boss.
Brian.
Yes.
That would be the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
The boss. Yes.
Yes. Not to be confused.
Starting kind of on the obvious side. She says her own name.
Yeah.
All right.
And then Republic so you got me.
That one almost shouldn't count because you literally do say who it is.
All right. Number 2. Go find a place to hide. I'll catch up. Keep riding and don't look back.
Oh, Buzz. Brian.
Yes?
That would be John Marston from Red Dead Redemption.
Yes, that is one of my favorites
Jack.
that I chose not to mention while we were talking about.
Yeah, if we're talking about like death scenes. Oh my god.
Yeah, his death scene is great, and what it says about the overall narrative is great, and the way the game continues for like a little epilogue after that.
Here's what bugs me about Rockstar.
Oh god, that's one of the greats of all time.
In the time we have had one Red Dead Redemption, we have had like 14 Grand Theft Autos. Going that direction.
Yeah, there's no justice. I know.
Well, Red Dead doesn't make $1 billion overnight. That's the.
Grand Theft Auto does kill like 2 characters.
It's true.
Does it kill 1 or 2 characters? I think Grand Theft Auto 5. I forget all of the characters' names, but
well, in Red Dead, John dies, but his wife dies later, and you take over as Jack in the end game stuff.
Yeah, you take over, and it's this really impactful, cool thing about like vengeance begetting vengeance, and it's kind of amazing that a game like illustrates that idea so well.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about this. Like, it's heartbreaking because the whole story is about John Marston trying to make a better life for his family than he had, and his death propels his son to become the one thing he never wanted his son to be.
Yes.
Heartbreaking. Absolutely.
That's a very concise and good way to put it. Thank you. I would just go on for hours and hours trying to describe that.
You could do an entire show about Red Dead Redemption.
We will whenever they announce Red Dead.
They have to be working on it, right?
Anyway. Okay, next one. We're going to get a little less obvious now. It might still be obvious. I don't know. Close your eyes, honey. Don't look.
Brian.
Yes?
That would be another scene that broke my heart. That's Lee from The Walking Dead.
That is not Lee from The Walking Dead. I'm sorry.
That really sounds like it was Lee.
You sounded so confident. I mean, maybe he says that too. I have no idea. But specifically...
I'm really bad at this game. Really,
maybe you don't
really
obsess
bad at
over
this
it.
game.
That is
I don't remember.
from Half-Life 2. It might have been episode 1. I don't remember. It's when he gets snatched by the thing and he tells Alex.
Oh, it's episode 2 because it ends with his death. But
yeah.
I don't know. I forgot about Half-Life.
He tells Alex to look away because he's getting killed. That's the one. Okay. Shooting things.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I can't believe this. Like I remember the scene with Walking Dead, and it's nowhere close.
Shooting things. It changes you. I don't want you to get used to it. Nobody?
Oh, okay, that one. Yes, that one's Lee from The Walking Dead.
That one is Lee from The Walking Dead. That's sort of a tricky one, though, because he has different dialogue options.
Yeah.
But that is one of the dialogue options.
Yeah. By the way, in that scene, what did you do?
I did not have her kill me, because that was the one that I chose. I didn't want. I said I didn't want you to. I don't want her to get used to it. That is the other one that like profoundly affects me every time I think about it. The lead death scene, because it's the trajectory of the whole series, or the whole series of, I guess, episodes up to that point, was like him passing on life lessons, and then like the last thing they have him do is like select from a list of dialogue options for these different things of like live your life like this, live your life like this, live your life like this. Yeah, it's something. And that's when she's offering to shoot Lee so that he doesn't have to turn, and you can tell her yes, do it, or I don't want you to have to do this kind of thing. All right, last one.
I remember what it's been a while.
Yeah. Last one. This might be pretty obscure. Your behavior is dishonorable. I can't allow this.
I'm having a lot of fun watching this game show where Brian answers trivia questions.
Your behavior is dishonorable. I can't allow this.
I've honestly got no idea, Cassie.
I know for a fact that Brian is going to be like, oh, once I say it.
Is that Dishonored? Because that'd be appropriate.
No, that really putting it on the nose there for Dishonored. But no, it's not Dishonored. This is an older game. I'm assuming Brian is giving up. That is called Final Fantasy VI, when General Leo challenged Kefka, who had gone mad with power. I feel like this was a nice birthday treat for Brian, giving a list of questions that, like, of course he knows them. But yeah, General Leo, you remember that?
Yeah.
I chose not to go with the obvious Final Fantasy death.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing about Final Fantasy VI. I don't know if I said it on the show before, but Kefka's like the one truly effective villain in that series, because every other villain's like,
wins.
Well, he wins. Yeah, he destroys the world. When you fight him, he's already won.
Even when we were talking about deaths in game, this doesn't quite count. But I was like, Seely's suicide attempt in 16 bits. Like, that was weird and kind of affecting. Like, if you don't eat the right kind of fish after the world ends, she just loses all hope and throws herself off a cliff.
Just like in real life.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. If you don't eat the right kind of fish, that's what happens. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Kefka went mad. There was a struggle for power in the Empire. General Leo was like the actually somewhat honorable one, and he tried to challenge him, and then he got murdered.
Didn't Gestall kind of stand up to him too? I can't remember.
Yeah, a little bit. I think that happened.
Gestall doesn't live
on
through
the
it either.
island. This was inside a village. When they were on the floating island was when the Emperor actually stood up to him and Kefka threw him over.
So Final Fantasy VI, best Final Fantasy.
Yes,
how does the group feel about that?
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm not a Final Fantasy person. I've played like
All
3
right.
of them.
Well, then you can just agree with us out of principle.
Yep, Final Fantasy VI, definitively.
100% of the Chattycast agrees that Final Fantasy VI.
3 out of 3 podcasters.
Yep. You're a young'un. I don't know. You might have been in diapers when Final Fantasy VI came out.
I was not in diapers. I was toilet
What are you
trained
like?
at that point,
16,
at least.
17? I don't know.
About. Hey, I can vote this year. That's all that matters.
Yeah. But you should go back and play that if you haven't yet.
6 or 7? Because I tried to play 7. 7 does not
6.
hold up.
Yeah, 7 does not.
I feel like 6 would hold up. Well, I don't know if 6 holds up, but I feel like it's aged better than 7 has.
Yeah. Well, its art style
Here's my
isn't
thing with
as
JRPGs.
wonky,
JRPGs are way too long. I can't put that kind of time commitment into
That
them.
is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, my clock at the end of Final Fantasy VI was like 99.99.
Yeah, forget it. That's not. That's not happening. Plus, I get really impatient during turn-based combat too. So Final Fantasy is just not a series for me.
Yeah, I
Like
can see that.
Persona wasn't too bad. Like I played Persona 4 on the Vita, and that
I
was
do like the
probably
Persona games.
that was probably the best way to go because that game is about 70 hours long, and I don't think I could stare at a TV that long. So
No. I like Pokemon.
Pokemon, yeah, that counts. That counts. That's a JRPG.
Okay.
Wait. How are you like? JRPG combat is too slow, but I like Pokemon. Pokemon is slower than any other JRPG I've played in my life.
Because I get to look at cute animals while I'm doing it.
Okay.
It's different.
You're like choosing one character's one attack. Anyway, yeah.
Hey, don't judge me, all right?
We can move on away from this Pokemon shaming. That's the show. I'll give you guys a chance. Cass, do you have anything coming up that you would like to plug?
I am putting up the previews from Mother Russia Bleeds and Oclose this week. Probably one of them today, probably one of them tomorrow.
Yep.
Let's be on the lookout for that. I also had a good friend of mine who works at IGN on the podcast this week, and we had a really good time talking about Pokemon, incidentally. So go listen to Super Jump Radio. It's
cool.
at Super J Radio on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at
Pokemon. Brian.
Yep.
It's summer, so I assume you're just relaxing by the pool like professors do.
No,
Reading academic journals.
Yeah, so
Dusting off your tweed jackets.
I wish I need a tweed jacket that's got leather patches on the elbows, but
I ruined
one
two
I
jackets.
don't have that I thank you. You ruined a perfectly good jacket. Correction. New jacket. But I don't know. I've got like all these chapters that I'm working on that are not, like I said, they're not going to come out for a long time. We did do a video. Our game studies program. We shot a video about Pokemon Go. I don't know if it's officially live yet, but I have seen it. It turned out better, except I hate looking at myself. So, you'll always notice I'm looking above the camera or away from it as I'm talking. But I think it turned out well. I'm pretty happy with it, and the idea was we wanted to kind of like let people know more about the university, know more about our program, connected to Pokemon Go. So we went like to all the different Pokestops and gyms around campus because it turns out there's a lot of them, and we shot a little video that will be up eventually. I don't know, probably in the next day or so. But I don't have like a link to send you to or anything. Just check my Twitter. I'll probably tweet it. Twitter.com/learnonaut.
Okay.
It'll be on there.
So I've got a kind of plug. There's a new Hearthstone adventure coming, and as listeners know, I'm a big Hearthstone fan. I talk about this. I try to contain myself and not talk about it all the time because I feel like that would bore people. But there's a new Hearthstone adventure.
Hearthstone.
Point is, when this happens,
Wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, right.
You really think like quiet you. This isn't necessarily a thing that like actually gets us traffic, but it's something that I just kind of enjoy doing. I kind of use it as an excuse. I do card reviews as they're revealing new cards. I'm like, oh, this is how this card could be used, and sort of try to give some notes on potential strategies and how worthwhile I think it'll be to put in a deck and things like that. So I did part one of that. And in the past, how it's been is like every few days when it gets to some sort of critical mass of cards, somewhere between 10 and 15, I do another review. So I did my first part. There's 45 cards in all. I did 14. They revealed 2 more since then. And on Friday they're having a stream where presumably they will just reveal all of them. So I don't know if I'm going to like have any more reviews before that event, or if I'll just have like, okay, I guess now I'm reviewing like 35 cards. But yeah, assuming that they release them a little faster than they have been the last couple days, I'll have more parts of that going up sometime. And otherwise, I'll at least have some more going up on, Friday or Monday or something like that sometime soon. But yeah, they've released 2 more cards since I did that like 2 days ago. This is a snail's pace. But please feel free to go back and read the part 1 because I feel like I have some pretty good thoughts. I'm heavily evaluating a card that I've seen professional streamers say is trash, and so I'm looking forward to being vindicated and or proven wrong on that one.
I just like that the themes for these adventures they're just going for it. Like, okay, here's a theme based on a disco party.
Yeah, this
like,
is
at a mage tower.
This is an established Warcraft character having a disco party.
And I can't help but think that
It's goofy as hell.
if they had gone for the disco dance party in the Warcraft movie, it would have cleared like $800 million worldwide.
I forgot that
easy.
thing even came out. Holy crap. Wow.
Yeah, it's. I will say I don't think it was a complete disaster, but yeah.
I'd rather see that than Suicide Squad, I can tell you that much.
So the thing, like, I was really hoping, like, and I've told anybody who will listen to this, my wife's probably heard this at least 3 times, so the poor thing. But like, I was selfishly hoping that Warcraft would be a smash hit, so we could get a Diablo or a StarCraft movie. That's really what I wanted. I could really care less about a Warcraft movie. But Diablo or StarCraft, their day, I would almost camp out. Like, that's how excited I would be for Diablo or StarCraft. Or Overwatch.
I'd want Blur Studios to animate it if they did.
Yeah.
Blur's really good.
What do they do?
They did the intros to Diablo 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they do. They're like one of the best animation studios in the world.
Yeah, Blizzard's in-house stuff is really good too.
Those Overwatch
It
things,
is,
yeah, those are no slouch.
Yeah.
No,
if they did a full-length Overwatch movie, I would definitely go see it. I'm just saying.
You know, I am more and more disappointed that
years.
Overwatch. I am more and more disappointed that Overwatch doesn't have a story because I really think it would be cool.
That was my one real complaint about it because it's like you made such a cool world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that'll
Almost
be
perfect.
something that I'm sure is
Almost
raised during our Game of the Year discussions at the end of the year. So close, Blizzard, so close. So that's the show. That's the plugs. Rate us on iTunes, helps other people find the show, and we will be back next week. So for Casty Moser, I am Steve Watts,
And I am Brian Carr.
and we will see you on Chatty. Happy birthday, Brian! Hold on, Cass.
No, don't do this. Don't do this.
And everybody on the Chatty, say happy
I'm
birthday.
going to leave.
Birthday to